Hello first years, this is a lesson on semiotics then, to help you with your visual analysis. In this screencast we're going to go through at least the first three objectives here: defining what the term means, being able to demonstrate an understanding of what signs actually are in media texts, and thirdly, explaining with examples what the term connotation means. Semiotics refers to the study of signs. Now this is one of the fundamental building blocks of media. The ability to understand, deconstruct, and build, create signs. Everything is a sign, as we all come to learn. This is Ferdinand de Saussure, one of the originators, the OG of semiotics. Along with these guys here, he founded this approach. 50s, 60s, 70s, really, this field was defined as an academic discipline. These guys looked at language in particular and how different letters put together in different combinations created different meanings, and the field of linguistics, study of language, broke out and evolved into semiotics as well, the study of all sorts of signs, whether it be colours, for example, the green here with its medicinal, sickly, antiseptic, envy-ridden connotations, whether it be numbers with their, in this context, connotation of that of a prisoner, someone being dehumanized, less than human, reduced to somewhat of an automaton, a robotic-like approach to thinking of a human, whether it be gestures and mannerisms, with the way that they can connote to an audience different feelings subconsciously as to a person. Camera shots, where someone is framed, lighting, whether it be costume. All these different elements, all these different signs put together, whether it be the actual hair or lack thereof, eyes, gesture, costume, lighting, camera shots, music, angle, words. All these different signs come together to create different meanings for the audience. Signs are the building blocks of semiotics, which looks at meaning. Semiotics is the language of signs, and yes, semiotics is the language of media. It's what we do all the time. It's what you guys are constantly in the habit of doing, deconstructing and creating your own media. Different fonts, different angles, different images, different signs put in different combinations create these different semiotic codes, these different signifiers, as it were. Now, media, whether it be a film, whether it be a TV show, whether it be a brand on a poster, they're constructed from signs. To become a media producer, as you're in the process of doing, you need to be able to understand how to use signs effectively to communicate to your audience. A way of understanding how meaning is conveyed and communicated to your audience through different messages are listed in this slide here. Think about the way you're using these elements here, whether it be illustrations, letters, words, body language, to communicate to your audience in your visual project. Here's old Roland Barthes. He argued that verbal language, like I'm doing right now from my mouth, making sounds in particular orders down this microphone into the computer, up to the YouTube satellites and back down again through the speakers into your ears, that verbal language is just one way in which we communicate. Our language and our communication is rich. It's beyond just language. And semiotics looks at this, and the media in particular takes great interest in using these different ways of communicating to connect with its audience. Think about body language. Think about the communication codes we fire out at each other consciously and subconsciously. Media takes advantage of all these codes. The way we look, the way we dress, the way we stand, the way we edit ourselves, whether it be through makeup and hair, whether it be through our performance in front of cameras or with each other. Any given moment has the potential to be rich in visual meaning and semiotics. As media producers, you're looking to do this all the time. Barthes believed that People are signifying all sorts of messages about themselves all the time. Signs are everywhere in the media industry and everywhere in life, and they're used to communicate information to the audience. Have a look at this.
Hello, ladies. Look at your man. Now back to me. Now back to me. Sadly, he's not using lady-scented body wash and switched to Old Spice. He could smell like he's me. Look down. Back up. Where are you? You're on a boat with the man your man could smell. What's in your hand? Back at me. I am. It's an oyster with 2 tickets to that thing you love. Look again. The tickets are now diamond. Anything is possible when your man smells like Old Spice and not a lady. I'm on a horse.
All the language used by the Old Spice guy has been constructed by us to produce meanings within our given culture. The verbal and visual signs used in that advert do not have any inbuilt meaning to them. Culturally, we've created these meanings of diamonds meaning luxurious gifts, and a horse meaning that of a prince in a fairy tale, and a boat being that of affluence and a rich lifestyle. These are culturally constructed meanings that in our culture we've built up. The meaning of all of those signs in the Old Spice advert comes from their relations to other elements. Everything about that advert, in terms of the smooth camera movement showing how effortless and slick the guy was in one camera movement, looking down the lens, directly addressing us individually. Every single sign in that advert had meaning, was chosen with purpose and reason. And the better a media product is, the better it plays these notes, these approaches, playing these signs in a way that is engineered to create the desired effect in the audience. It's through this complex array of elements, using lighting, using camera shots, using different contexts, using different props and so on, that meaning is added to and reinforced or deconstructed and played with and made fun of in some instances. Language, the social contract of language that I'm using right now, I'm making sounds with my mouth in particular orders to construct words that I know that you understand. Language is a construct. These words and these letters that I'm putting together right now in my mind into words that you are deciphering at your end of this video. This language is a contract. It's something that we've agreed into as a culture, much in the same way that any sign system, any collection of signs, any sign that we pick up on the media, as a culture, we've decided that that sign means that. It has those connotations, those cultural meanings. The social contract of language means that we agree to use the same language as everyone else, so they understand us. Same goes for semiotics and signs. Every day in our life we see these things, these signs that communicate to us. This has evolved, of course, online. In particular, in the last 5 to 10 years, we now can share through emojis and GIFs and memes complex emotions. Memes are a good example of semiotics in the sense that they share and communicate information really succinctly and efficiently. Images can signify information about how we feel about things, whether we're not impressed or whether we're angry. Over the last 5 to 10 years, in my career as an educator, I've seen the meme, as it were, evolve to being one of the dominant forms of communication amongst young people in particular. The term meme comes from old Dickie Dawkins, the professor, much derided by religious folks because he wrote The God Delusion, making fun out of religion, not making fun of, but deconstructing religion and faith. But he also wrote a book called The Selfish Gene, within which he coined the term memetics, and he says that memes are like genes in our DNA that are spread through our families through genetics, in the same way memes are spread through the internet like a virus almost through memetics. Memes spread culture like a virus in a similar way to genes spread through a family's genetics. So old Dickie Dawkins is quite smug with that, as you can see. He coined that term, and now we know it to mean something completely different. Memes are one of the dominant forms of communication at the time of recording this screencast. a form of semiotics, a form of signs used to communicate between different people. It transcends language even. We've constructed meaning in our culture. It is like a social contract that we buy into so we can understand our surroundings. There are two parts to any sign. There's the signifier, which is the physical form, so the image itself, the thing itself. And then there's the signified. And the signified is the idea it produces for the person receiving it. So that it's, I don't know, an emotion it evokes in you, an event it's advertising, letting us know what it actually is, what it does. The word tree took the E, the letters TREE, and saying the word does not show what a tree actually is or sound like a tree. As a culture, we've decided that those four letters in that order making that sound means tree. It's arbitrary and random, but as a culture, we've decided this is what this means. Together with the memory of what it's associated with, it makes you think of what a tree actually is. You'll think of a tree differently and in a different way based on your backgrounds. The signifier is the actual physical image or word itself. The signified is the idea it produces in your mind. Whenever there is a sign you're encountering, your mind is doing these two parts at the same time. The signifier and the signified. But we all see things differently, of course, based on our own memories, our education, our nationality, our culture, our language. Through our own personal filter, the prism of our own selves, we receive information differently. It's influenced by these different variables. Ultimately, a sign is always made up of these two parts here. The physical part itself, then the actual meaning and the idea it evokes in the mind of the recipients. So the sign here of a actual opening sign for a restaurant signifies the physical lettering itself. The signified is the actual information that you can go in because they're open for business. That's the idea it evokes. Different signs are used by different magazines, different print publications in particular, to evoke different feelings. Here we see 1960s or 50s, I think it may well be actually, Paris Match magazine, where we see this sense of post-colonial France and its embracing approach to its very multicultural, diverse population, who see a proud young boy of African origin saluting what would appear to be some sort of nationalistic symbol, dressed in what appears to be some sort of army stroke military stroke scout-like get-up. A sense of dedication and pride on his eyes as he looks off into the distance there. Images and the way they're chosen and edited, selected, bits rejected and enhanced communicate an awful lot to the audience. Different signifiers, the physical signs themselves, create different signifieds and meanings in our minds. As media producers, we need to use these techniques to create the desired effect in our audience. In semiotics, a sign can be anything. Something essentially, as de Saussure argues, that stands for something to someone in some capacity. So it's anything can be a sign. So media producers combine different signs together into different combinations to create different effects, whether it be exclamation points, whether it be photographs carefully edited and adjusted and cropped, whether it be backgrounds, lights, different fonts. It all has different connotations. Signs, then, are discrete units of meaning, little bits of meaning. And it can include words, gestures, scents, taste, sounds, anything can be a sign. Essentially, signs are all of the ways in which information can be communicated as a message by any living, breathing organism to another.
Sheldon, what's going on?
I need your opinion on a matter of semiotics.
I'm sorry?
Semiotics, the study of signs and symbols. It's a branch of philosophy related to linguistics.
Okay, sweetie, I know you think you're explaining yourself, but you're really not.
Just come with me.
So, having a lovely old time, the audience, weren't they? Seem to find that hilarious. Let's try and pause it on the bit I want to illustrate. So here we see this somewhat socially inept character trying to understand the semiotic symbol of the tie wrapped around the door handle of his shared apartment. Here's semiotics. This is the signifier, the physical sign, as it were, signifier. Is the physical thing. This signified is the idea it evokes in the audience. Now, the idea it evokes for this young, more savvy, culturally competent character who eventually shares to this guy what the meaning is that someone's having sex, basically, in here. It's a sign in our culture to signify to one another that, do not enter. This is something that's happening in here that is very private. This tie tied around the handle suggests that. It's semiotics in action. So if using Big Bang Theory as an example, just sorry. So, memes, signs, these are good ways to understand semiotics and to think about semiotics as how I would learn about semiotics if I was accessing this sort of new branch of academic study at this time in 2018. It's a really efficient way to actually think about semiotics. So, here's your task for this blended learning session. I want you to demonstrate an understanding of semiotics by creating a meme. You're going to work in pairs, use photo booth on your Mac or use your phones, up to you entirely. You're going to add text and share it in Google Classroom or our Facebook group, which we don't really use too much. So let's stick to Google Classroom. You could look at Memebase or just Google meme for some ideas. I want to see you share with me a meme. Show me an understanding of semiotics and please create a meme and share it. Use the signifiers to create a signified. Now I've shared with you the rest of this slide deck. As you can see, there's quite a few different slides here which go a bit further in more depth about what semiotics is. But I'm going to stop it there because this video is going on a bit long. This is for those people who wish to delve a bit deeper. So, semiotics shows us that our perception of reality is shaped by the words and the signs of others. Hopefully this has given you an introduction as to what semiotics is. This slide deck with all of the extra slides is, as you can see, we're up to slide 61 of 152. You can delve deeper to actually push yourself a bit further. But it's giving you an introduction, which is what I set out to do at the very beginning of this. We've covered the first 2 or 3 objectives in this little screencast, okay? Any questions about what to do for the semiotics part of your visual analysis, let me know. But again, I will direct you to this here. Now this, on the visual analysis template, is a little guide, as it were, as to what you need to include. Now, use your lesson work on semiotics and do a detailed analysis on a visual media scene of your choice. Now, you've looked at different scenes in some of my lessons. I know Vicky's done some work on this with you as well. If you haven't done anything, no visual analysis for adverts or for anything at all yet, then here's a template for you. Establish the sign to be decoded. For example, what scene you're going to be looking at from a visual product, a music video, a film, a TV show. Put aside your opinion. I don't care about your opinion in this context. Your task is to analyze the meaning of the semiotics. It's not a review. Tell me why the choices have been made. Why that lighting? Why that camera shot? Why that costume? Why? Determine what the signifiers mean. What do they mean to the audience? The symbols, the setting, the location, the props. Discuss also how the visual product represents its topic and its characters. Positively, negatively, how does it represent them? What is absent? What is present? What is shown well? What is not shown? Give me the context. When in time was it created? What's the cultural backdrop in terms of this visual product scene you're looking into? What sort of political leanings are there to the actual text? If you're unsure about the cultural and political, then don't worry too much. That's more of a higher level year 2 skill set. But I'll put that in there just to stretch the one or two of you that are already approaching those levels. But look at the context, the when and where it was created, and think about whether the history, the culture, and the politics sort of shaped the sort of text it is. Use terminology such as signifier, signified, connotation, which means cultural meanings, mise en scène, so the location, the lighting, the set design, the costume, ideology, which means its values, its thoughts, its beliefs, what it stands for, intertextuality, what other media text is it referencing. This little template will give you a nice little analysis of a nice little visual product. There you go then. Any questions, as always, let me know, but I feel you guys are on it. This template is simply there to give you some guidance. I haven't got to follow it verbatim to the letter. It's just there to give you some guidance, all right? Message me if you need help with anything at all. Good luck.